What's up, YouTube? Welcome back for another offseason recap. We're going to continue the series. We just did the AFC North. Now we're going to move on to the NFC North. Now, this division is going to be stacked. Now, this division consists of the Lions, Vikings, Packers, and Bears, all in which I think improved to some extent, maybe besides the Vikings. So we'll get into there. We'll start talking about their draft picks. What were their offseason, what were the free agency additions, and what were some of the departure, and what could this mean for this upcoming season? So, to kick us off, we're going to start off with the Vikings. This is probably the most intriguing offseason just because they lost Sam Darnold, they lost Daniel Jones. I thought Daniel Jones was going to be the safety blanket to stay with the team just in case J.J. McCarthy doesn't pan out. So, this team is practically riding on J.J. McCarthy. They also signed Sam Howell to be the backup quarterback, and they also have a few other quarterbacks in that room. Brett Rypien, and they got, I believe he was undrafted, Max Brosmer. So, really banking on J.J. McCarthy to be a really good starting quarterback. Just looking at their roster, I mean, this team is pretty good. It's pretty stacked, and I think they improved to some extent, especially on the offensive line and the defense. But first, let's take a look at their draft picks from this season. First round, they signed Donovan Jackson, guard out of Ohio State. This pretty much boosters the interior offensive line, which was a big problem for them last season. And it was one of the holes, and they filled it with Donovan Jackson. I thought it was a good pick. It was a smart pick. I thought they were honestly going to go safety with this pick. I thought, because I think one of the biggest issues with the Vikings could be their secondary, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Interior line, you address it by drafting Donovan Jackson. I think that's a good guard. It definitely fills a hole. Pause. Round 3, they drafted Ty Felton, receiver out of Maryland. Not too familiar with Ty Felton, but they definitely needed some help with the wide receiver depth because it's Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, then it's Jalen Naylor, and then you got some other guys in there. Like they just signed Rondale Moore, and pretty much that's the only other notable name in that wide receiver room. So you got a rookie out of Maryland. Last time they drafted a receiver out of Maryland, turned out pretty good, and Stephon Diggs. So we'll see what Ty Felton can do. 5th round was defensive line. 6th round, Gavin Bartholomew, tight ends, and then the 6th round, Kobe King, the linebacker. Pretty much some depth pieces there, but you never know how they turn out. So now, taking a look at their offseason free agency additions, well, some of the biggest one is Jonathan Allen, defensive tackle. That was another issue with this team, was the interior D-line. It was pretty much the interior trenches. And they addressed both sides of the ball. They got Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargraves, 2 huge defensive tackle pieces for that defensive line. They definitely spent some money with those guys, but I think it'll pan out. They also signed Will Fries, a guard from the Colts. They got 2 new guards. So the offensive line is beefed up. The defensive line is beefed up. And they also signed Rondale Moore. Like I mentioned earlier, they re-signed Byron Murphy Jr. That's huge. They also signed Jordan Mason, a backup running back or just more additional depth for that running back room. They signed Jeff Okudah. I mean, he's been a disappointing prospect so far, so let's see what they can do with him. Ryan Kelly, he's been the new starting center for this team. Isaiah Rodgers, and the rest of are just more like depth pieces. So, take a look at this roster. J.J. McCarthy, first time starting in his NFL career. This Vikings team, all you have to do is surround him with as much talent as you can to help him succeed in his first season. Last year he didn't play because of a meniscus injury. Had surgery on that. Now he's finally get some playing time. They got Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason in the back room. They got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson as receiving threats. Offensive line improved, especially the interior. They got Brian O'Neill, Christian Darrisaw, those 2 tackles, and then they addressed the interior offensive line. That's huge. That's what they needed to do. That's what they did. Interior D-line also got touched up a bit. They got Jonathan Allen now, Harrison Phillips, Javon Hargraves, 2 edge rushers, Greenard and Van Ginkel. Huge season last year by Van Ginkel. He's a huge piece of that defense. The interior linebacker is good. I think the defense is definitely the strong suit. The front 7 is going to be huge for them. The secondary might be an issue for this team as they only kind of retained Brian Murphy and Harrison Smith. They did sign Isaiah Rogers to be the opposite side corner, and then they also re-signed Theo Jackson, so he might get some starting minutes. We'll see. Right now, according to the depth chart, it's going to be Josh Metellus at the strong safety side with Harrison Smith in the free safety. So overall, I think the Vikings did what they had to do. I mean, quarterback could be a little bit of a question. We're going to see what he can do, but they did surround him with talent. The defense, the front seven for the defense, is going to be nasty. The offensive line is going to be improved. And of course, you got Justin Jefferson there still. So watch out for the Vikings. They're a very interesting team. They can be a team that goes off this year and repeat what they did last year, or they can just potentially miss the playoffs. You never know. So it all comes down to how the quarterback plays. All right, next team, we got the Green Bay Packers. The biggest question with the Packers that they needed to address was honestly who's going to be the wide receiver one, step up and take that role, and maybe some secondary help because it sounds like they're trying to trade Jair Alexander. So if they trade Jair Alexander, who do they have in there? So Packers are an interesting team. They were a team that competed last year. Jordan Love had a pretty solid season. I think he can be set up to exceed expectations this year. So first, we'll get started with their draft picks. This past draft, first round, they took Matthew Golden in hopes of him being their wide receiver one. They have a ton of they have good receivers in Green Bay, but no one that's stepped up to be that wide receiver one role. But they do got depth pieces. They do still have Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks. They got plenty of solid receivers in that room. So that definitely helps Jordan Love a ton. Second round, they drafted a tackle and Anthony Belton out of NC State. That addresses the offensive line. I think they did lose a tackle this past offseason. No, they did not. They lost a center and a guard, but they didn't lose anyone notable this past offseason, honestly. It was just some depth pieces. They did lose A.J. Dillon, Eric Stokes, and they also lost Josh Myers and John Runyon. So they did draft a tackle, and he's going to be, according to the depth chart, behind Rasheed Walker. So we'll see how that plays out. Third round, they drafted receiver out of TCU, Savion Williams. And that's pretty much the notable names from the draft. Those are the only ones I'm going to touch up on. Now, taking a look at their free agency signings, no one crazy. They did sign Aaron Banks to fill that guard piece. Who else did they sign? They signed Nate Hobbs. That's also another cornerback that they needed. Brandon McManus, I think he re-signed. Yeah, he just re-signed. Not much. It was a very impactful offseason besides Matthew Golden. So they kind of retained their core pieces. They got Jordan Love still at the helm, Malik Willis in the backup, Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd's going to be splitting carries in that running back room. Now the question is who's going to step up to be that wide receiver one in Green Bay. In my opinion, I think Matthew Golden's going to step up and take over. Tight end room, they got two solid receivers in that tight end room, Chuck Kraft, Luke Musgrave. Offensive line got touched up a bit. I think it honestly might have improved a little bit. Defense is it's kind of similar to the Vikings. Front seven is pretty good. Now the secondary, not so much. I mean, they still have Xavier McKinney. He is probably their best secondary player. But then also Jair Alexander. Two good pieces. They signed Nate Hobbs. That addresses the opposite side. Now we're going to see whether or not they're going to keep Jair Alexander. If they keep him, that'll be beneficial for this team, as then they will have Jair Alexander, Nate Hobbs, and Xavier McKinney. So we'll see what they do. The front seven, I still think is pretty good. So I think Green Bay Packers be surprised a lot of people. I think they're going to be better than most people expect, and they might even be competing to win this division. Next team. Now, this is probably everyone's favorite team in the NFC North if you don't have a team in the NFC North. You got the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell, that gritty team. They played tough last season. They played really good. Unfortunately, couldn't make it to the Super Bowl. So, before we get started, what are the biggest needs that the Lions need to address? In my opinion, it was defensive tackle depth and another edge rushers across from Aiden Hutchinson. and then maybe another secondary piece, and also maybe another receiver to add to the receiver room just for depth. Did they address that? We'll get into that. First pick, they in the 2025 draft, or the first round, their first round pick was Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle. I thought they kind of reached on this one. I thought there was other edge prospects that they could have picked that could have lined up against Aiden Hutchinson that would have been more beneficial for this team. And they could have probably drafted a defensive tackle in the later rounds. But their two starting defensive tackles, McNeil and Reeder, two really good defensive tackles, but they're both coming off of significant injuries from last season. That was the thing with this team. Injuries derailed the Lions season last year. So it doesn't hurt to add depth piece to that interior D line. But I just thought there was better players that they could have took and then invested in the interior D line later in the draft. But that's just how I looked at it. The second round, they added offensive lineman and Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. Not too familiar with him, but I've heard some good things. It looks like he's going to be the starting right guard according to their depth chart. Offensive line has been crucial for the Lions, has been one of their strongest cores ever since they started this new regime. And you can't go wrong in just investing in our O-line. So, again, I thought there were some there were edge rushers there that they could have took instead. Third round, they finally addressed one of the position I think they needed to address the most is wide receiver, Isaac Tesla. They traded up to grab him, and he's going to be one of those depth pieces for the wide receiver room. I mean, wide receivers, you can't have enough of them. So I don't think you can go wrong there. Other than that, they got more depth pieces. They did finally take an edge rusher in the 6th round in Ahmed. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. An edge rusher out of Boise State. Is he starting caliber? I don't think so. Right now, who they have listed across from Aiden Hutchinson is going to be Marcus Davenport. I think there could have been more powerful players than him, but we'll see how he does. In terms of their free agency signings, they addressed the corner in signing DJ Reed. I think that was a great move by the Lions. He's been a great corner for the Jets. He finally went out in free agency, and they picked him up. I thought it was a great piece for his Lions defense. Other than that, they re-signed Marcus Davenport, who, again, like the interior D-line, suffered a season-ending injury in a torn triceps in Week 3 against Arizona last year. Other than that, no one very significant. Looking at this depth chart, though, they're in position to running back. They still got their quarterback in Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Dave Montgomery. Their core pieces are still there. So they're running back with the same guys on the offense. They just added another guard. They replaced their initial guard. Defense could be a little bit of a concern because pretty much that whole offensive line, or not offense, the whole defensive line is coming off of significant injuries. I'm not worried about Aiden Hutchinson. I think he can come back, but McNeil and Reeder, they're up there in age, and then Davenport, we'll see what he'll come back to. I thought they could have at least gotten the edge rusher out of like Boston College. I thought he was a good edge rusher prospect. The linebacker core is still strong. I still like this linebacker room. As far as the secondary, I think they improved. Their secondary tree of Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Sarah Arnold, and I think they only made it stronger with DJ Reed. And it's Rackstraw. He was a really good prospect last year. A lot of people hyped him up. I don't think he played that much to last season. I don't remember hearing his name the whole time. But even though they still have Amik Robertson in the cornerback room. So Lions, still a very strong team. They're going to try to win the AFC North again. We'll see if they are able to do it. The other teams, they're also stacked. Now, the last team, the AFC North, was one that everyone thought was going to have a big jump up last season and did not really. I mean, they were a hyped up team because they had Caleb Williams. It was kind of a disappointing season for them, especially offensively. So, first round. We'll go over the draft picks first. First round, Colston Loveland. I thought they were going to go Tyler Warren. More of like a receiving tight end compared to Tyler Warren, who I guess is like a do-it-all prospect. So they went for the player with the most offensive upside and receiving threat in Colston Loveland. Second round, Luther Burden III, a receiver out of Missouri. I think that was a really good wide receiver prospect. He could have arguably won in the first round, but he fell to them in the second round. I think that's a great piece. Add another receiver for this Bears team, especially since Keenan Allen left too. Another pick in the second round, Ozzy Trapillo. That sounds like an Italian brain rot name. But he's an offensive tackle from Boston College. That addresses the offensive line. I said they did lose some pieces on that offensive line. Now taking a look at their free agency signings. The Bears were active this free agency, this past free agency period, especially on the offensive line. Signed Drew Dahlman, center. They signed Grady Jarrett, defensive tackle. Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson. They went heavy on the offensive line, especially since it wasn't all that great last year. They kind of replaced the people that they lost with these way improved talents. So the offensive line's going to be way better, in my opinion. It's looking as if they're going to have Braxton Jones, left tackle, Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, Darnell Wright. I think that's the best thing the Bears could have done. So, and they got some depth pieces from the draft. Interior offensive line improved heavily. They're still going to have their running back with Caleb Williams. Running back, maybe a little bit concerned. They still have DeAndre Swift, but with improved offensive line, I'm sure he'll be fine. They got Rashawn Johnson. I thought this was a team that could have went with a running back, especially in the second round, but decided not to stick with who they got already. They did sign Travis Homer as well as another piece there. Receiver and weapons, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden could be the top three. They did sign Zacchaeus, former Commanders player. That's another depth piece. Tight end room, Cole Kmet, Colson Loveland, two pretty good offensive weapons there. In terms of the defense, got to stop the run. They signed Grady Jarrett. He's up there in age, so we'll see if he can still get production done. Edge rushers, they got Montez Sweat still. He's going to get to the quarterback. They also got Javon Dexter Sr., and they also got the rookie out of Texas A&M in the second round as well as for additional depth pieces. Opposite Sweat, you got Dayo. I'm not even trying to pronounce that either. Linebacker room, I think is still strong. Secondary, one of the best corners in the league right now, Jalen Johnson. Secondary might be the strength of this team, the defensive line. We'll see what kind of production they get out of Grady Jarrett and that defensive line. Okay, so overall, this Bears team, with a new head coach, with a new scheme, improved offensive line, and they added some pieces on defense as well. I think this team could make some noise in the AFC North. Are they ready to compete for the AFC North? I think that's something we have to see. I mean, I don't think so, just because of how stacked the other three teams are. But I think this team can make some noise. It depends on if Caleb Williams can step up. They invested heavily on that offensive line, so it has to work out. And they also got some more weapons, some young talent. They still have DJ Moore. Rome Odunze is going to enter his second year. Luther Burden's going to be rookie. So that Rome Odunze, Luther Burden is going to be a pair of receivers that's going to be with the Bears for a while. And that's going to only help Caleb Williams. They also have a pretty good tight end prospect in Colson Loveland. So a lot of young talent on this team. They just have to develop them and see what happens. I mean, yeah, I don't even know where to project the Bears, so we'll see. All right, a little early division prediction in terms of where they will finish in their division. This was a tough one. It's a lot. There's three really good teams in this division. So I'll start from the bottom. I think it's gonna be Bears last, just because I don't know what to expect from them. They did improve, but I don't know they're at the level as the other three teams. So I'm gonna go Bears fourth. Third, I'm going to go with the Vikings just because of the question of J.J. McCarthy. Is he going to be a really good quarterback prospect or is he not? I mean, I think he's going to determine how that team plays out. I mean, other than him, the team around him is great. It's a great team, especially the defense. That defense is stacked. They got Brian Flores as defense coordinator. You can't go wrong there. Now, I'm going to go with the Packers second, and then I'm going to go with the Lions first. It's hard not to go with the Lions first, especially what they did last season. The only question with the Lions is all the players coming back from injuries. That might be a concern. And they didn't really add another edge rusher, which I thought would have been very beneficial for them. So I don't know. I'm still gonna trust the Lions because I like their offense. And I think the secondary did improve. I'm going to trust the players to come back from those injuries and still perform. So give me the Lions first. I'm going to go with the Packers second. I do think Jordan Love's going to step it up. And Yeah, I mean, he did suffer what I thought initially was going to be a season-ending injury. Like, what was it? I think it was the first week. But thankfully it wasn't, and it was something not so major. I think it was something minor, and then it might have affected him throughout the whole season, honestly. But now he had a full off season to recover. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go with the Packers. I think they're gonna be a sneaky team. I think it's gonna be close. I mean, I don't think the Lions are gonna run away with this division at all. I think it's gonna be a very close division, hard fought. But yeah, those are my orders for the AFC North. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel for all the other division predictions and some more. We'll start getting to some college football conference predictions or previews, should I say, pretty soon. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.